The council chamber fell silent as High Arbiter Velkan's 6 eyes narrowed at the human standing before him. Mira Rowan stood with her shoulders squared, her dark hair pulled back in a practical bun, her worn expedition jacket bearing the scars of 100 frontier worlds. "The decision is final," Velkan announced, his mandibles clicking with finality. "Humans are unsuitable for educational roles within the collective. You will vacate the orphanage of lost stars by sunset tomorrow." Mira's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. Around the curved chamber, the other council members, representatives of a dozen species, avoided her gaze. She had expected this. The collective had always viewed humanity with suspicion. Too emotional, they said. Too reckless. Too attached. "Understood, High Arbiter," she replied, her voice steady despite the weight crushing her chest. As she turned to leave, she caught sight of Ziki through the chamber's observation window. The young Kryn cub pressed his 4-fingered hands against the transparent aluminum, his fur bristling with distress. His large amber eyes tracked her every movement. The walk back to the orphanage stretched across 3 habitat rings. Mira's magnetic boots clicked against the station's corridors with mechanical rhythm. But her mind was elsewhere 17 months ago, when she'd first arrived at this remote outpost on the edge of collective space. The orphanage of lost stars housed the forgotten ones. Children whose worlds had been destroyed by stellar phenomena, political upheavals, or simple tragedy. Species that barely tolerated each other found their young sheltered under one roof, cared for by rotation workers who treated it as just another assignment. Mira had been different. She'd learned each cub's name, their fears, their hopes. She'd held them during nightmares and celebrated their small victories. She'd taught them mathematics through games and languages through songs. And somehow, impossibly, she'd made them feel like a family. The dormitory was in chaos when she arrived. Word had already spread. Ziki stood in the center of the common room, his small travel pack slung over his shoulder. Around him, 23 other cubs gathered their meager possessions. A Threlian with crystalline skin carefully wrapped her few belongings in cloth. 2 Verdani twins synchronized their movements as they filled their pouches. A young Quellan, barely past his molting stage, clutched a drawing Mira had helped him make. "What are you doing?" Mira asked, though her heart already knew. Ziki's ears flattened against his head, a sign of determination among his kind. "You're leaving. We're going with you." "You can't," Mira started, but a thin voice interrupted her. "You promised you wouldn't leave us like the others did." It was Senna, a Zyri whose bioluminescent patterns flickered with anxiety. "You promised." Mira knelt down, bringing herself to eye level with the assembled cubs. "I didn't want to break that promise. But the council has ordered." "The council doesn't want us anyway," Ziki said flatly. His young voice carried a hardness that no child should possess. "They send us the broken food synthesizers, the old learning tablets, the care workers who count minutes until their shifts end." He stepped forward. "But you fixed things. You stayed extra hours. You cared." The other cubs murmured agreement, a chorus of chirps, whistles, and voices in a dozen languages. Mira felt something crack inside her chest. She'd been alone since Earth's diplomatic corps had dissolved 3 years ago. Scattered across the galaxy like seeds in the wind, these cubs had become more than her students. They'd become her purpose. "Listen to me," she said, her voice thick with emotion she could no longer hide. "Where I'm going, there's no station. No habitat rings. I'm heading to the frontier territories, places the collective has barely mapped. It's dangerous. Uncertain. More dangerous than losing the only person who's ever cared about us?" Ziki's question hung in the recycled air. Mira looked at each face, scaled, furred, feathered, and crystalline. Each one marked by loss, yet filled with fierce determination. These weren't helpless children anymore. They'd survived things that would have broken adults of any species. A slow smile crossed her face. "You'll need warmer clothes. The frontier stations run cold." The dormitory erupted in controlled chaos. Cubs darted to their bunks, reorganizing their packs with sudden efficiency. Mira pulled up her personal datapad and began making calculations. Her small ship, the wandering star, could be modified. Life support could be extended. Sleeping quarters could be cramped but functional. As the cubs prepared, Mira sent a single message to her old academy friend. Now running a research station in the Kepler Verge. Incoming. Population 24. All young. All brilliant. All unwanted by the collective. Can you use us? The reply came within minutes. Always room for humans, and those crazy enough to follow them. When do you arrive? That night, Mira stood at the observation deck with Ziki beside her. Beyond the window, stars stretched infinite and cold. What if the council tries to stop us? Ziki asked quietly. Then they'll learn something important about humans. Mira replied, resting her hand on his shoulder. We don't abandon our family. Ever. Ziki's tail curled around her wrist, a crin gesture of deepest trust and affection. The others say humans are too emotional for teaching. That you get attached too easily. Mira smiled. And what do you think? I think, Ziki said, his amber eyes reflecting starlight, that maybe attachment is what makes the best teachers. By dawn, the wandering star lifted away from the station. No alarms sounded. No one tried to stop them. Perhaps the council was relieved to be rid of the troublesome human and her collection of misfits. Inside the ship, 24 cubs found spaces among cargo containers and supply crates. They ate recycled rations that Mira had flavored with spices from a dozen worlds. They laughed at her terrible jokes translated through universal translators. And when the youngest ones grew frightened as the station disappeared behind them, the older ones held them close just as Mira had taught them. In the captain's chair, Mira plotted a course toward the frontier, toward uncertainty, toward possibility. Behind her, she heard the cubs beginning their evening routine, sharing stories, reviewing lessons, finding comfort in community. The collective had ordered the human to leave. The cubs had gathered their things, and together, they would show the galaxy what family truly meant.